A revered actuary, an astute academia turned public servant, a passionate leader who is keen about bringing development to his state and nation, a decent and thoroughbred Ekiti man. Our guest today is a brilliant innovator who has served in various capacities across the world. You'll meet him after this break. This is the Sunday Interview. I'm Jokeli Jadu. Be right back. Welcome back. Our guest today is an actuary, a fellow of the American Society of Actuaries. He was former commissioner for trade, investment and innovation during the government of Dr. Kayode Fayemi in Ekiti State. He was also the pioneer commissioner for budget and economic planning in Ekiti State. He is Mr. Debo Ajayi. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, so let me start like this. Who is Mr. Debo Ajayi?
Thank you. Well, Debo Ajayi is a native of Ekiti, born to primary school teachers back in Abeokuta in those days when it was all Western State, and moved around with my teacher parents when Ondo State was created, and went to school, Aquinas College, Akure, and from there came back to Abeokuta for advanced levels, Abeokuta Grammar School, and then from Abeokuta Grammar School I entered into UNILAG to study actuarial science. I was fortunate to be the first in the history of the University of Lagos to make a first-class honors in actuarial science. Wow. One thing led to another. I ended up in Canada back in 1987 for graduate studies. So there's so much I can say about myself, but maybe as time goes on, I can reveal more. All right, so growing up, who were some of your earliest influences, people that you would say influenced and formed the man that you have now become? Well, beyond my parents, I also had an uncle who was an accountant with Dunlop, who actually eventually became the king, Elemure of Emure, was a role model to me. I wanted to be like him. And then when I entered into the University of Lagos, my first year professor in calculus and analytic geometry just came back from the US with a master's in actuarial science from University of Michigan. And was about the only person in the whole department that had familiarity with what being a professional actuary is. And he really paid attention to me and inspired me really to pay more attention to actuarial science. I have several others. My older sister also was a great influence, and her husband, the Paez, he was an NPA medical director. Seeing them have a settled home and an excellent marriage was an influence on me as well.
Oh, all right. Growing up, would you say you had any kind of nicknames that people call you?
Oh, brother. Of course, I had plenty, depending on at what level. I won't go back to secondary school because that one I like to forget. But when I was in UNILAG, I was also very active in student politics. In my second year, I ran for financial secretary of University of Lagos Student Union. And in the final year, I was the chairman of Eninjoku Hall. And my nickname then was Debbie J. So many people that were in Unilag between 82 and 85, if you say Debbie J, they can probably relate to that. In fact, Governor Ambode was in Unilag at that time, so he'll probably remember Debbie J. Afikuyomi, the former senator, was in Unilag at that time as well. So, and of course, Governor Fayemi was my secretary in Eninjoku Hall when I was chairman. So I'll probably prefer to remember just that one.
Just Debbie J. How do you get away from actuarial science, everything that you do? How do you get away? How do you relax?
Oh my goodness, I wish I can answer that question, because I try to relax within what I do, okay? I internalize what I do. I find relevance in what I do. So what I do actually expresses what I love to do, and thereby I don't think I need to get away. Okay, when I'm advising senior executives of insurance company, I do it with passion. Okay, because my motive is to help them, and I have the expertise to help them. So I don't feel stressed. I don't even feel I'm working. You know, and that's why I can share knowledge very freely. And yeah, so I don't even know. You know. People that know me will probably expect me to just go away. The only time I have to go away is when I need a quiet time, okay? To get new perspective, to just blank out everything, just allow insights into life and what I do to just overwhelm me rather than activities, you know. And in those times, I might just lock myself up in a room and read a good book, you know, which is usually a Christian book, you know. It just takes my mind away.
All right, so do you enjoy sports, any form of sports?
I used to. I used to play badminton a lot. I was even a coach in Ogun State in those days because I told you I did my A-levels in Abeokuta Grammar School, as well as Adeola Odutola in Ijebu-Ode. Yeah, so I coached for the ministry in Abeokuta in those days. So that's probably about the closest, you know. So, but it was fun.
But currently, do you enjoy watching? Do you have any club you support? Are you into that kind of thing?
Not really. Okay, well, you know, I was in Canada for decades. Soccer was not popular. And when I was in the US, it's only recently that soccer became popular. So you don't actually, in fact, you don't actually have a TV channel that played European soccer in those days. So you kind of lost that attachment to soccer over the years. So I'm not an enthusiast. Like I've come to find that for some people, that's their religion in Nigeria.
Yeah, I agree. So music, movies, do you enjoy any of?
I do. I don't like thrillers. I don't like violence. I feel for people when they're suffering, so I cannot bear the sight of blood and people suffering. So I cannot stay away from those kind of movies. But I love movies with good storylines, the one that actually evokes kindness and evokes real emotions that you can relate to. Yeah, I do enjoy those, you know. But in terms of music, I'm a gospel person, so I find that very uplifting.
All right, it's generally believed that Ekiti people are pounded yam people. Are you one of such? What's your favorite food?
My favorite food, interestingly, is lafun.
Oh,
but
Lafun is Oyo.
Abeokuta as well.
I got
that from Abeokuta, you know. I got that from my grandmother. And it's actually my favorite food. But the interesting thing is, it's also food that I don't get to eat a lot of, you know. In Ekiti, there's hardly any lafun anywhere.
So what essentially defines you? What defines you as a person?
Well, as a person, I like to be empathetic. I like to put myself in other people's shoes, see things from their perspective, and I like to add value. Okay, I like everybody that I encounter to leave my presence and feel that they are better off than when they met me. To me, that brings a sense of joy that I've added value. So I freely share information, helpful information. So that's very important to me. And not only people, it gives me a property. I like to improve on it. I love to be believable. Credibility is very important to me. And people will tell you, Debo is too honest. But I don't believe you can be too honest, you know. I try most times to be very frank and honest. And in fact, interestingly, I discovered that a lot of these values define Ekiti people from long ago, even though we've since lost many of this. But that will be what defines me.
All right, we'll go on a short break now. When we come back, we'll still be speaking with the former Commissioner for Trade, Investment and Innovation in Ekiti State, Mr. Debo Ranti Ajayi. Stay with us. Welcome back. We'll spend the last couple of minutes getting into the world of an actuary, a fellow of the American Society of Actuaries. He was Pioneer Commissioner for Budget and Economic Planning in Ekiti State and is actively involved in the African diaspora community activities in the US, Canada, and the UAE. Is Mr. Debo Ranti Ajayi. Thanks for staying with us.
Thank you.
So let me ask you how you move into public service, into politics. How did it go? How did you get into politics?
Well, actually, it's an interesting thing. It never crossed my mind to consider a career in public service because at the time I had risen to the level of a managing director of the largest private actuarial firm in the world to oversee Middle East, Africa, and South Asia. I was doing well. Okay, in Dubai International Financial Center. Then I visited Nigeria, and journalists stumbled on this international actuary, and knowing that we have less than 10 actuaries in Nigeria, decided to interview me. And Punch did a full page of that interview. And the same morning that appeared in Punch, I got a call from Governor Fayemi, who was asking me where I was, and I said I was in Ilorin. I was in Ilorin that morning when it appeared, just came out of Governor Abdul Fattah Ahmed's office. And he said, where are you? I said, I was in Ilorin. Are you coming to Ekiti? I said, yes, I was going to come to Ekiti because my mom was then alive in Ado Ekiti. And he told me, eventually when I got to Ado, I let him know, and they said, come to my office. So I went to his office, and his first sentence was, Debo, I need your help. I said, sure, whatever I can do to help. I didn't know where he was going. He said he wanted me to serve his government. I said, sure, as a consultant, right? He said, no. He said, as a full cabinet rank commissioner. I laughed, literally laughed in his face. What are you talking about, you know? I've never worked in Nigeria except for teaching in University of Lagos before I left. And I've never worked for government. So, you know, in the corporate world, you don't ask people to do things that they are not qualified by training, education, or experience. So I thought the same would apply in public service, you know. And then I asked him, what exactly did you want me to do? He said he wanted me to start the Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning. I said, you know, I'm not an economist. He said, yes, he knows. You know, I'm not an accountant. Yes, I know. And then he said, but I need your actuarial skills. I need you to help me project the economy of Ekiti and then roll it back into annual budgets. I was highly impressed. I didn't even know.
You knew how to use those terms.
Yeah, you know, he's an impressive guy, you know. And the only way I could stop him, because he had answers to all my concerns, and I said, well, I have to discuss it with my wife, you know. He couldn't stop me from doing that. So that's how I escaped from his presence that day. But 10 years earlier, I'm a believer, okay? It had been revealed to me that when I've risen to the top of my career, that God was going to change my direction. So for 10 good years, I was waiting for this to happen. I didn't know what the change was going to be.
Look like.
I just knew from that revelation that I was happy about the change, and I waited for this. That's how the whole story started.
And if you look back now, would you say that, you know, you have any regrets from that decision that day?
I will put it this way. It has been very tough, okay? I left a managing director position to become a commissioner in Ekiti, not even Lagos State. My salary, allowances, everything put together does not even pay my receptionist where I was coming from. So it was a major sacrifice. And at that point, I had 3 boys in Ivy League universities in the US, okay? Average of $45,000 a year. So I had to liquidate shares, assets to maintain them in school, to maintain my mortgages. So it wasn't a pleasant experience whatsoever. But the joy was knowing that I was where God wanted me to be, doing what He wanted me to do. So in terms of regret, it's still an imagined picture. You know, I'm still yet to see where the path is going to take me. So at this point, I cannot say I have regrets. In fact, on the contrary, I have a sense of fulfillment.
All right, let me talk about, you know, some of the things you did as Pioneer Commissioner for Budget and Economic Planning in Ekiti State. I know that in your time, in 2013, you developed and delivered the 2013 budget.
Yes.
Well, you know, just before 2013, it was in 2012.
Correct.
That was a first at the time.
It was a first.
And coming from a country where we believe that it almost seems that we don't get our budget until maybe the half of the next year.
That's
you want a 2018 budget, where you have to wait till like May, June before you get it. How were you able to accomplish that?
Actually, the governor was the one that established that deadline. You know, I was new to government, so I was taking a lot of instructions and directions. So the governor wanted the budget for 2013 to be ready by December 2012 at the latest. And we had no systems, no processes in place. That I had to develop firsthand without using external consultants, working with the civil servants. And to my pleasant experience, the civil servants responded very well. Okay, we worked together. In fact, there were times when the civil servants working with me would spend days in the office, not going home. They would sleep in the office. I learned firsthand that Nigerians will respond very well to a good leader. A leader that makes sacrifices with them.
All right, now let's talk about where this journey is taking you to, because you mentioned earlier that, you know, you still don't know where this journey is taking you to. So let me ask you where you think this journey should take you to, or where you want this journey to take you to.
Well, you see, because I'm not the one that is designing the journey, I follow instructions, divine instructions, which has now led me to wanting to run as governor of Ekiti State, to provide leadership, to provide the kind of leadership that can inspire the rest of Nigeria. Coming from a professional background, coming from a corporate background, and having spent enough time on ground to have familiarity with issues, familiarity with resources available, familiarity with the peculiarities of the people, combined with what I've seen around the world in terms of development, in terms of how to get around problems and issues, and bringing all that together to showcase to the rest of Nigeria what is possible when you have a good leader. So that's where the journey is directing me now.
All right, let me ask you what the Ekiti State of your dream is, the Ekiti State that you go to bed dreaming about and you hope to wake up to see one day.
Wow. I would like Ekiti State to become the go-to state in Nigeria, the state you go to find solutions to your problems. I dream of an Ekiti where we have quality manpower, okay, that provides solutions to a lot of problems that hinder the realization of potentials in Nigeria. I like to strengthen or rediscover what defines an Ekiti person. Okay, in those days, Ekiti people are known to be people of integrity, people with high core values in terms of honesty, hard work, and all of that. So I would like a situation. I would like a situation where Ekiti is known for these core values and rallying all our resources around the world to become proud to be an Ekiti person. But that whole vision transcends Ekiti. It's just to use Ekiti as a pilot, as a showcase to inspire other states in Nigeria. And I say that with all sense of purpose, because I frequently tell people that the transformation of Ekiti has a higher inspirational value than the development strides of Lagos. Because frequently, Lagos is put in a special class. People see great things happen in Lagos, but they don't expect it can happen to them. But take Ekiti, that is currently a despised state, a laughingstock of several, become transformed. People are bound to ask questions like, how come Ekiti? Can any good thing happen in Ekiti? How did they do it? Who did it? Can the same things not happen for us? What changes do we need to make? So the inspirational value of a transformed Ekiti, for me, as far as Nigeria is concerned, is very high. And that adds to my motivation to want to take on leadership of Ekiti to show the rest of Nigeria what is possible.
Let's still talk about, Ekiti State and your plans for the state. Now, earlier you talked about, the state being popular for intellectualism.
Yes.
And I would remember that even as a student in Ife, I had some of the brightest lecturers, professors from Ekiti.
That's right.
But you would agree with me that in the last couple of years, churning out this brand of intellectuals has been reduced, a great deal. How do you hope to change this? What's your agenda for education and for improved education in the state?
Thank you. Well, as far as my vision for Ekiti is concerned, I intend to use the intellectualism, that intellectual asset that is associated with Ekiti, to create a platform for them to contribute to the development of the state, using our largely unemployed young people. We have them in abundance in Ekiti. Over 70% of our young graduates are without employment. So my vision is to combine these young people with our elites and intellectuals around the world and give them the platform to create socioeconomic development. That is my vision. I've actually, in private sector, after we lost election in 2014, actually started to take steps in this direction. I created an organization together with other distinguished Ekiti people that we call Ekiti Warriors and Arrows. Wanda, you're right. And the warriors are our elite and intellectuals, people with capacity to take a young person, mentor them into becoming productive member of society. So those are our warriors, while our young people are our arrows. So warriors and arrows. And if I'm fortunate to be given the responsibility to lead the state, this is part of what I like to see happen in actuality, because that is our greatest strength. That is one asset that Ekiti has, that no past government has exploited, our intellectual asset. Talking about education, my observation is that routinely Ekiti people pursue education more to fill their heads while their hands are idle, okay, or empty, rather than academics. I would like to promote functional education. Education that is driven by what needs to be done. so that there is a link between academia and the industry. So if we are going to discover the tourism potential of Ekiti, I want to see a tourism and hospitality institute in Ekiti, developing the culture of tourism, developing the infrastructure of tourism, and all that relates to tourism, okay? So that people, when they graduate from such institutions, they're working directly into ready jobs for them. So, because Ekiti people go into education for academics, they are largely professors in educational institutions. So the functionality is very, very low. So functional education is my emphasis, and I want to also ensure that no Ekiti person is held back from realizing his or her dream because he cannot afford the education, okay? So access to education is guaranteed to all. Financial capacity regardless.
All right, lastly, let me ask you one thing that you know about yourself that a lot of people do not know, but you would like to share with them.
Oh, brother, that's a difficult question. One thing I know about myself, I don't know. I'm very transparent and love to share. So there's really, for me, what you see is what you get. Really, it's not. There's nothing I know about myself that people don't know. You know, they know me. They know me. I love to excel, but I told you I've learned about failure. So I've come to realize that the outcome of my effort is really not what defines me. It's the sincerity of my effort. So nothing really that people don't know about me.
You are much of an open book.
Yes, yes.
Well, we have been speaking with a former secretary of the Economic Development Committee of the Nigerians in Diaspora Organization, NIDO, the UAE chapter,
Correct.
and fellow of the American Society of Actuaries. He was a former commissioner for trade, investments, and innovation during the Kayode Fayemi administration in Ekiti. He was also pioneer commissioner for budget and economic planning. Mr. Debo, Ranti, Ajayi, thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
And thank you, viewers, for watching the show. Remember, you can keep up with us by sending your mails to the Sunday interview at tvcnews.tv. We will be waiting to hear from you. Thanks again for watching. I'm Jokeli Jadu. Bye for now.